David C. Olcott. What a wonderful perspective. What a great conversation with David. You know, learning about him, fascinating background or origin story, as we say now. Grew up in the Keys of Florida, was a diver, had a very difficult household, and was able to learn from the tourists that went there about how people became successful, and eventually got out of there, went into politics for a while, and now he helps people being present. He's got a great book that we learn about, and what he worked with Tony Robbins before that as well, by the way, and was really able to understand how he works and how he controls an audience, and a real strong disciple of NLP. I'm not sure if you know what that is or not, but really, really great conversation with David. I really enjoyed his perspective. He's present, he's patient, and he's liberate, he's pleasant, he's open, just a really, really great individual to spend time with. And I really appreciate it. David, thank you so much. And thank you for watching and listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because I was working way too much. Before you know it, I found myself 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People think there's some secret. Ask me, how'd you lose that weight? Like there's some secret. There is no secret. How'd I lose the weight? Just one word: discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends, colleagues convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission: how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Person, David Olcott, C. Olcott, thank you very much. You do Aikido and motorcycle racing. Those are very different disciplines. What do you get out of them?
Wow. I just finished a weekend, as a matter of fact, at the Yamaha Champion School, where some of the fastest riders on the planet taught us how to ride motorcycles at a whole nother level. And they were all on race bikes, and I was actually on a GSA, which is a big bagger bike, like an Indian or Harley, a BMW. And I just spent 2 days with some of the most fascinating people on the planet teaching us about how to get around a track faster and safer. And it's just a great metaphor for life. So one of the things I love to do in this lifetime is love to learn. And learning is just one of those cool things that really gets me excited, gets me out of bed. And I think that has to do a lot with my philosopher kind of concept that I have of my lifetime.
In this fast-paced MSP landscape, how do you stay ahead? Introducing MSPinfluencer.com, your ultimate hub for MSP news, insights, and community connection, powered by Forza Dash. More than 75,000 MSPs subscribe to our MSP Influencer Pulse weekly newsletter, staying informed and ahead of industry trends. Tune in to emerging podcasts from Joey Pinz and leading MSP voices, offering essential tips, powerful insights, and success stories. Explore our multi-authored blogs, crafted specifically for MSP leaders, delivering fresh perspectives and actionable strategies. Celebrate excellence with the industry-leading Forza Dash MSP Influencer Awards, recognizing innovation, leadership, and impact in the MSP community. Join thousands of MSP professionals who trust MSPinfluencer.com to grow their business and expand their networks. MSPinfluencer.com, where today's MSP leaders connect, collaborate, and conquer, all powered by the Forza Dash platform, helping MSP vendors work effectively with MSPs and helping MSPs grow. So the motorcycle racing, it's in a track, it's on dirt. I don't really understand the difference between a lot of the racing. I don't follow. It looks really cool though.
It's a road racing, so it's on road. There are dirt bike tracks and stuff like this, but this is a road racing track to be able to go onto. Yeah. I
see. And how long have you been doing it?
Gosh, I've been motorcycle riding for 25 years, just about the same time of doing martial arts. And I've been racing motorcycles. I stopped racing in 2005 competitively. And after a friend of mine passed away on the track, I was just like, okay, there's some other things I want to do with my life kind of stuff. It truly, truly is. And it's something to be truly respected. And you know, it has a lot to do with business. I think there's a lot of great metaphors that go along with this. Matter of fact, I'm talking to the guys from Yamaha Champion School about how to bring that school into corporate America and start talking about risk mitigation. So it's a powerful metaphor for that, for sure.
It sure is. And of all the martial arts, why Aikido?
Aikido is based upon the art of the samurai. And Samurai Success, of course, is our company's name. So yeah,
Yes.
that's the connection.
There's the
Yes, sir.
link. Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
So it's a Japanese martial art.
It is a Japanese martial arts. Hi.
Hmm. And I did a little jujitsu for a while. I got hurt and I never went back.
Yeah.
I cracked a rib, David, and if it starts affecting my golf and my tennis, but I loved it though.
Priorities.
Yeah, but I loved it. But it's just you're rolling around with men and you can get hurt. Is it keto contact? I don't know anything about the discipline.
Yeah, it's not this competition that you see in most of the things. There is a competitive field of Aikido, but most of it is actually kata work, which means you're practicing to be able to deal with events in your life, if you will, street fights, those kind of things. But, jiu-jitsu is much more built for if you're in a street fight. Aikido is much more about the thinking way of being able to prepare your mind and your body for a potential event like that, a street fight. I have never used Aikido in that street situation, though.
Good.
Yeah.
What martial arts taught me at a very early age was to not to fight, right? To be disciplined and not. People think it's the opposite. It'll make you tougher, but it actually teaches you how to avoid it. And we're similar with that discipline at Aikido as well.
Very much so. As a matter of fact, that's my experience as well as yours, Joe. Is like I fought a lot when I was much younger, and I was like, okay, I don't need to be doing this anymore, because I really felt bad after every single fight. I know that sounds strange. It's like, What do you mean you felt bad?
Yeah.
Well, I felt bad because either I was getting hurt or I was hurting somebody else,
right.
And that was not my outcome, man. It was just here I was dealing with a situation where I was typically in a defensive position. I wasn't starting the fight, but I had to prepare to be able to defend myself or family members or whatever it was, and I still felt bad afterward. And I was like, how do I get myself to a mindset where I know so much that I don't have to prove to myself I can win a fight? I already know that I've won the fight. And that's what martial arts has taught me.
Yeah. I was in the competitions and you win, but you felt like you lost, it's just, it's very tough. But the way I think society as a whole just would run a lot smoother. There'd be more happiness if everybody took on some degree of martial art.
I don't think a more powerful statement has ever been said, brother, because I think there's two things you should definitely do. You should definitely be a waiter this lifetime, and you should definitely learn martial arts.
Yeah.
It's such a humbling perspective to understand about being in service of others. And that's what samurai loosely translated means. So that's why my passion this lifetime to be samurai, to live as samurai, is to truly live that life and be in service at multiple different levels, at very high levels or very low levels of things. But I'm prepared for all those things, and that's my training.
David, tell me about yourself before 18. You grew up in the Keys. You spent more time in and on the water than on land. You swam with the dolphins. So tell me what it was like to be down there in the Keys.
Oh, gosh. Have you ever been to the Florida Keys?
Oh, yeah.
If you okay, well, then you know how magical a place that is. It's heaven and hell, though, because if you're visiting there, it's heaven. If you live there, the folks say it's hell. Right. And the reason for it is because it's so cut off from everything else that you don't really get a perspective, because everybody coming down there is incredibly rich. They're on vacation. Right. They're free. It's not real life, if you will. But it gave me a unique opportunity, brother, to be able to interview. I didn't call it that. I just was asking questions. I was just a kid. I was just so curious. How did you be successful? How did you do this? And for all those years when I was on the dive boats or the other, fishing, spear fishing, tropical collections, whatever I was doing, I was always meeting people that had already got to some pinnacle of success that I was chasing. And I was like, I need to interview these people. How did you do it? And I just started coming up with a set of questions that really started isolating themes in my life and their lives that made people really successful. And that has been my curiosity this lifetime. How do successful people really get successful? And there's two groups of those people. People that are just jerks and been really successful, and people that are incredibly humble and been successful. And I was very thankful to meet both groups. And then I could choose which ones I wanted to be part of.
Was there a common trait amongst the jerks and amongst the humble?
Very much so. As a matter of fact, the intentionality is what shifted between the two groups of people. And it really came down to this. were they being in service to themselves? Were they being in service to others?
Ah.
The intention really changed. So when you boil down all those conversations over the years, that's what I finally came to, is that foundational element of intentionality is, who are you being in service to?
Hmm. So you talk to these tourists, I guess you want to call them, visitors, and you'd be working and you'd say, how'd you get your fortune? I mean, people love to talk about themselves, right? I mean,
Yes, sir.
so so you're
Wasn't
like,
hard.
yeah, I was going to say, you don't have to crack the shell too much. And and you were at a young age, just like a teenager.
Basically, yeah. As a matter of fact, I had my first job, I remember, when I was 12, and it was a lemonade stand. And then I moved into delivering newspapers, and then I started diving. And that's really, at 12 years old, I got my first certification for diving, and I just fell in love with that. Now, I had a precursor to that, because one of my famous people in my life was a gentleman named Jacques Cousteau. And if you grew up during my time, you know
Of
him very
course.
well. Of course, the Jacques Cousteau television show and everything else. Well, his son, Jean-Michel Cousteau, came to the Florida Keys when I was 9, and he was helping create the Lou Key Marine Sanctuary. And I met him, and it did something to
Whoa.
me to meet my idol's son, to be that
Whoa.
connected, right? Just really pulled me in. And after that, I was just in love with diving. And I think I have over 800 dives in my lifetime. But it just is an amazing world. It's a dangerous world, and
Yeah.
it's a powerful world. And I love both those aspects of that.
Hmm. Is diving, snorkeling, scuba, like, define diving?
So diving could be either a freestyle, where you just dive with, nothing, a mask on, if you will, and you're just diving down. You can throw a snorkel in there or whatever. And then there's scuba diving, which is the self-contained breathing apparatus that you put on your back, or some kind of hose that you have a hook or rig that you dive with. But all those things allow you to stay down in the ocean a little bit longer. So, I mean, I think my max time for diving when I was really young, was about 4 or 5 minutes that I could hold my breath.
Oh my
And,
God.
you really develop that skill set. 120 feet, was pretty much within my range. 90 feet was where I felt really comfortable, but the fish don't care where your breathing stops. They keep going to where they keep safe. So you had to be able to really extend past that.
Oh my
Scuba
God.
allows you to get to several hundred feet. You just got to know how to play that, because it becomes a lot more dangerous. I mean, as soon as you get 1 foot underneath the water, it becomes dangerous.
Wow.
As soon as you get to 90 feet and these different atmospheres they talk about, the rules completely change. You got to know how those rules work. And a lot of people lost their lives to teach us how not to do certain things. And you have to understand that discipline. And so learning again about how to be able to do that and stay safe.
You're a long way from Key West now. You're in the Denver area. Do you miss diving?
I do. As a matter of fact, I still dive. As a matter of fact, I have that's funny, the dive school that's right down the road from me, where I go, and we go all over the world kind of stuff, and still dive those things. So I miss it, but I still have access to it. So I don't live in the ocean. Now, interestingly enough, we're looking at a place in Virginia Beach will put me back on the ocean. So that's exciting.
So how do you get a diver there in the Keys, and then you become a politician? You get on the state Senate? Is it state Senate?
Yeah, I was actually the chief of staff for the Senate Appropriations Chairman in Florida. Yes, sir.
Tell me, how did that happen?
Interestingly enough, I was in school, and a fraternity brother called me one day, and I just graduated. This was during the banking crisis, so I studied finance. So here I am. I'm thinking I'm top notch. I've done all the student government work. I've done all the work that I need to. I've gotten all the connections. I've done all the philanthropic stuff, and I'm starving to death. I'm a kid in college eating ramen and chili with kidney beans in it. And I'm just looking I don't know where I need to go. I don't know what I want to do with my lifetime. So I studied finance because I thought that's where I wanted to go. I thought I was going to go into law enforcement as an FBI profiler, switched careers kind of stuff mid, college, and started financing because business was always something intriguing to me. It was like, because that's who I'd met in Florida Keys, all these business people, right?
Right.
So studying finance, I sit down with one of the 12 vice presidents of Sun Bank at the time. And he is so excited. He looks at my resume. He goes, "This is so impressive. I can't believe you've done all these things." And I'm like, "Oh, thank God. I'm hearing all this stuff I want to hear." And he says to me, "We're going to offer you a job for $13,500. And my expectation was $80,000. And I was like, "Well, that's quite the big gap between those two places." And so that's the banking industry, because it was crashing at the time. This is 1991. It was the banking crisis.
Ooh.
And he says, by the time you're 35, 40, maybe you can be a bank president, you can be a teller. And I was like, that's not how this is going to work. So I was like crushed, and I was sitting in the Florida Keys diving, making some money. And a friend of mine called me and says, hey, we've got this opportunity to get involved in as a campaign manager to this woman who wants to run for the state Senate. And I said, well, I'm not really doing anything else. That sounds like an amazing adventure. Let's go for it. And so we campaigned with her, and she became the youngest woman at that time ever elected to the state house.
Wow.
She also now became the chairman of the Democratic National Party, which is an interesting thing because most of my family are Republicans.
Huh.
So you could imagine Thanksgiving, where I was the campaign manager to a Democrat, where the house full of Republicans. You could imagine, Joe, how that conversation may have gone. But I will tell you, understanding people's perspectives from different things, Republican, Democrat, we're humans.
That's right.
We're very much the same. We just have very different perspectives from those different positions. And understanding that has been my life's purpose, reason, understanding how people really work.
Good people can disagree.
Yes, sir. And we've lost that. We need to get back to it.
We have, unfortunately. We see a lot of people kind of digging in and polarization. And so the responsibilities of chief of staff is what?
Well, I pretty much was access to the appropriations chairman, which, in practical terms, that was $38 billion worth of budget. That's why everybody wanted to get to Ken. Ken was the governor maker. If you wanted to become Ken Jenny was the name of the gentleman I was working with. And he's had quite an interesting career. If you ever look him up, kind of stuff after I left. Anyway, it was his job was to make sure that the money got appropriated, not just from the budget, but the money got budgeted throughout the entire state. And you had to come to him if you wanted to be a governor on the entire East Coast of America. That's how powerful this position is. Wow. So I was the gatekeeper for him for that many years. And it was just one of those things where at that young age, that you had to be that young to work the kind of hours that we worked. 100 hours was typical. And I really mean that. I don't mean like, theoretical. 100 hours was pretty typical that we were working on our weeks. And it just burned people out like crazy. But it was an amazing time to meet some extraordinary people. And one of those people I got to meet then, of course, was my next adventure meeting Tony Robbins. Yeah,
Tony Robbins was next. But did you, after the experience of working for the government, did it solidify and make you more stronger and believe in the system, or did it put more doubt in your system? Like, what was the outcome? Because I'm sure you saw a lot of things you wish you didn't, and you saw a lot of things that you're glad you did.
In politics, at the level I was playing at, which was right underneath the presidential level of this country, Ken was that kind of level of things. We did more in 1 hour meeting that I've seen people can do in 4 years. Wow. Seriously, the decisions that were made, the pressure that we were under, the things that affected stuff was so massive. It was unbelievable to watch that information coming in, how quickly decisions were being made, and how much impact it could have in such a short period of time. Right. So that was impressive. But it also was absolutely solidified. I love that word you said. I was absolutely convinced there's 100% chance that politics is not the way to change the world. If I wanted to have the impact that I want to have this lifetime, politics was not my way to get there. Really? And the universe gave me very clear experience that was not going to change, because politics is not about change. It's about keeping power. It's not about changing power. So
one would hope that it would be about change, but it really isn't it? That's
yes, sir. That was my experience. Yeah. Now remember, this is 35 years ago, right? So this is quite a little time, but not much has changed. It's only seemed to accelerated to this higher level of intensity, and we're definitely at a tipping point of getting to, maybe we've done enough this way and the pendulum's about to swing, hopefully the other way, to be able to say, you know what, we've done it this way, it doesn't work. What about this way? And let's start experiencing some new things where politics can be a vehicle for change. But we haven't seen the person who's going to lead that charge yet.
Do you think you'll ever go back in?
I know I've been called back in multiple times for campaigns and things like this, and I've said, graciously no, that I didn't want to do that. But I think if there's a real opportunity and a real gifted person that really wants to make a change and is really driven to do it, I would definitely add my services to that.
Wow.
Because it is a powerful ally. Like I said, there is no other place I've experienced this lifetime, even with some of the people I've worked with, that you can make that much change and have that kind of impact. Put the right intention in there, brother. It changes everything.
Right, it sure does. Yeah. How'd you meet Tony Robbins?
So I went to work right after politics. I got involved with a gentleman in real estate in South Florida, and I was very fortunate to. He became the number one selling real estate agent in the world when I was with him. I was his business manager, and we collectively created a team. So at the time, selling millions of dollars of real estate was just unheard of. It was just you can't sell $12 million worth of one house. Today we do that all the time, but that was the big breakthrough at the time, was that you can't do that. Well,
Wow.
I was in the middle of Star Island, Miami Beach. We were selling Sylvester Stallone, Madonna, Prince. I mean, all the celebrities, all the Heat players, they all came through our offices to buy real estate. Whether they had the representatives or not, we eventually met most of those celebrities, those kind of things. And I was pretty comfortable with celebrities at that time because I'd been working in politics, and I met a lot of those folks a long time. But it was in a very different environment. In politics, they wanted something from us, and things they were looking for real estate that we could provide. So it was a very different intention, but yet, the dynamics and relationships were very similar. So I felt pretty comfortable there. Now, remember, I'm 26 years old. So, right. It was like, wow, you shouldn't be this mature. Well, I had so much intense experience during that time. It forced me to be much older in that experience. So I was really fitted for that. It was a really good time. And then when we got really successful, we started traveling around the country. There was a seminar system that was teaching systems to be able to be much like we had done. So when Carlos would get up, he would teach the sales side, and I would teach the team building side, the organization, the structural side of things. And so we were on stage in Palm Springs Desert. And Joe, listen, 26 years old, we had just rocked the house. I'm telling you from a pure ego standpoint, stay with me here, because there's a humbling experience for sure, as usual. But we're on the stage. There's 10,000 people in the room. They're all in Armani suits. These are high-level executive folks, in that room with us. And they're all listening intensely. They give us a round of applause, standing ovation kind of stuff. I'm at the top. We walk off stage. Seriously, this is like within 2 minutes of walking off stage. I'm feeling so good about myself, and oh my God, we did so well. And then there's this roar, this crowd in the background. I'm like behind the curtain. I'm standing like 2 feet from it. And I'm like, what is going on? This place is going bonkers. And I'm like, what is happening? So I had to peek through the curtain. As I peek through, I look up, and there's this 6'7", 300-pound man standing there controlling this crowd like I've never seen before, influencing them, motivating them. I've never seen a performance like that before. With all my experience, I'd never seen anything. And that gentleman was Tony Robbins. So I was so blown away by this, and I'd never read any of his books. I'd never seen his tapes, nothing. And I was like, there is a whole new level of understanding human beings. So I used my political connections to be able to get his home phone number in Del Mar Castle at the time, left him his cocky message. Oh my God. I told him I was going to be his number one sales guy. I told him this, blah, 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 blah. And he called me back. I'll never forget the voicemail. He called me back. He says, sorry, you cocky son of a gun. And I'm being nice on this podcast. And he says, I like what you had to say, but can you prove it? He says, my team's in Miami. If you go meet with them and you're all that you say that you are, I'll hire you. And that was it. So I went and met his team. I got hired, spent the next couple of years with Tony, and achieved that outcome of being his number one sales guy for a number of years. And so I was very, very, very fortunate.
Tell me what it was like going to meet his team in Miami. What were they like? What kind of questions did you get asked? What was that? Paint a picture, please.
Yeah. So meeting that group of people, I mean, it was an absolute cluster of information that I was walking into this hostile environment of, how dare you come in here, and why is Tony calling me to be able to get you out? So I walked into just the swarm of, who is this guy? And it was all about demonstration. So I had to show up, and they read people really well. And the only thing that saved me was because I had dealt with that level of pressure most of my life at that point. So it was such an important aspect of how they were really fierce with me. The hazing process that most men put you through. Well, there was also women in there that were also very powerful. And they put me through it, man. And they were like, okay, we just got to see if you're really the real deal. And once they had a good sense of that, they reported back to Tony to be able to hire me and bring me on board.
And tell me about your first interaction with Tony after you're hired.
Gosh, first interaction with Tony was intense. They had just gone out of New York. I've just been hired in Miami. They had just finished up the New York cycle, and things had not gone well. So Tony came in to have his motivational talk with his finance team, like, hey, how much investment he'd made, how much this, and how they underperformed. And I was like, holy crap. I mean, this is, I was used to these kind of meetings, but I was like, I wasn't expecting it for sure at that level. And it really kind of set the tone for why I wanted to really perform really well and do really well for the company, because I understood they had really high standards. And offset with that, was coming right into Christmas. And the thing he did at Christmas with his whole group of people in San Diego, he brought in this money in a vault truck, one of those trucks with the big vaults, he brought in all this money for bonuses and had Santa Claus take these bonus bags out and hand them to individuals. It was such an entertainment and presentation that I had never seen before. I'd been in politics, where everything was stale and, this is the way it is, every factual in corporate America. And here I was in front of an entertainer for the first time, experiencing and working for a guy like that. I mean, everything was super over dramatic and purposeful, I think is the right word to say. And it just had such an amazing impact of what life could be.
And what were your biggest takeaways from your experience with the Tony Robbins company?
Intention, man. Going right back to what I learned when I was much younger. I met some really extraordinary people on both sides of things. I will tell you that there was a small group of people there that were really about being in service of others. And there was a much larger group that was there and being in service to themselves. And that's the part that really was like, okay, I can learn here. I can stay here. I can train and practice, but this isn't my home. I know that I had to move on. Now, what was even tougher was we studied a thing called NLP and neuro-linguistic programming, which I'm master certified in. But I will tell you, with that kind of technology and the bad kind of intention that I saw, and by the way, this isn't just Tony's company or Tony or anything else like this. I think his intentionality is very different, but his team was very different at that time. And I had a lot of conflict with them. It was my stuff, not theirs. And I had to work through that. But I really wanted to be in service in a very different way using that technology, because that technology can be incredibly manipulative in the wrong hands.
How should people work with others in a work environment when we see that their objectives are so clear and different than our own or different from the company? How do you handle that kind of conflict, David?
I think that conflict really resides within each one of us first. And once you resolve that, and what I mean by that is a lot of the work that we do with our clients is that we don't realize how powerful our identity statement is. Once you know who you really are, not your programming, because most of us don't understand that how we behave is based upon our subconscious programming. How we manifest things is based upon our subconscious programming. Now, remember, when I say subconscious programming, this isn't conscious. You're not even aware that you're doing a lot of these behaviors, but a lot of those behaviors are driven by your belief systems, and those belief systems and that behavior is something called programming. That programming is designed around every single subject in your life, from your weight to your relationships to love to how much money you're going to make, how much money you're not going to make. All this subjects that you have in your life is pre-programmed by the time you're 7 years old. When you're 7 years old, something happens in the brain, which is really amazing. It moves out of a theta-based frequency into a beta-based frequency. Right now, you and I are having a beta-based frequency conversation. It's very conscious, very thoughtful, but it's not changing my programming. You're hearing my subconscious programming spoken to in my verbiage, but most people aren't aware of that that's happening. So if you really want to change something now that you're 35, 45, 55 years old, we don't realize that all of our programming based upon the subject you're dealing with right now is based upon how you're programmed by the time you reached that 7 years old. You got out of that theta-based frequency where all of your subconscious programming is available. You're programming all those things using that theta base. Once you move into beta, you do not program things any longer. If that makes sense.
And how does one tap into that?
Ah, that's been my life study, brother, for the last 30 years, is about how to tap into that. And we found there's 5 distinct ways so far to be able to do that. First one is hypnosis. We don't use hypnosis here. We use something called autosuggestion, which is a Napoleon Hill concept from Think and Grow Rich. Autosuggestion is the verbiage you use over every single day. The things you say to yourself over and over again, the concepts you're having in your mind, that self-talk you're having, that's reprogramming your brain to behave a certain way. So if you don't change that conversation programming, you will not change that behavior over the long term. Short term, sure, you can have an event in your life, you can use motivation, discipline, willpower to be able to change it. But over the long term, unless you change that subconscious programming, you're not going to change the results of that particular subject. And that is the fascinating part that we do here at Samurai Success. Number one is hypnosis. Number two is being in love. When you're in love, the whole model changes. You start manifesting from a conscious part of your brain. The love has a frequency, by the way. And so when you're in the frequency of love, this honeymoon effect, all of a sudden you start affecting people very differently. You are affecting the world very differently when you're in love. But love typically fades out of the way and you go back to your subconscious programming. Number three is through practice. Just like I did over this last weekend, if you practice things enough times, then it's going to really have an impact on your subconscious. So most people believe that practice makes perfect. The truth is, practice makes permanent. So when you're practicing something really poorly over and over again, it's just teaching your subconscious brain to do that poorly, not perfectly. Well, perfectly poorly, it would be a great way to say that. But this whole idea about practice, it really does have an impact. So be careful what you practice, because it will become a permanent thing about how you respond, react, and the results that you're getting in life. Number four really starts focusing on Psych K or NLP. These are technologies, human-based technologies, about how to affect and change that programming. The fifth one is very unique to Samurai Success. It's called the I Am Studio. We actually take you through a year-long process about how to change your programming around all these different subjects in your life and start including your soul in the conversation, not just your ego. Because that intentionality we talked about is a big part of this. Because if you keep seeking your ego to solve problems, you're going to create more and more problems. Your soul has a different answer. It has different access to, in the realm of pure potentiality, the spiritual realm, if you will, not to get too far down the rabbit hole of that, but there's another access place where you can get to as a human, that you can actually get answers to things that most people don't have access to. And developing that skill set takes practice to be able to do it. So then once you have that, we then take you into the studio. We actually record your voice, your tone, your words. And then we use theta brace frequency then to incorporate that into a meditative state where you listen to it twice a day. And it actually reprograms your subconscious mind to get the results in those particular subjects you're after.
Your first kind of pillar there, which was hypnosis, auto-suggest, it sounds like a practice of gratitude.
By the way, the feeling state you're saying, a frequency of vibration, gratitude, is a powerful ally because it falls into abundance or love as opposed to scarcity, right? Or rage or anger or any of those other things. There were 34,000 emotional states that you can choose from.
Really?
Gratitude is one of those. So think about the vastness of all those different things. Most of us are only aware of about 6 of those, but we have access to so much more frequency and vibration that actually changes the subconscious mind to get the better result that you're after.
David, your book, Swords of Illumination, what do you want the reader to come away with?
Exactly what we're talking about. The elements of that programming, if you really want to live a life of purpose and fulfillment, that's what people come to us as. It's like, I'm doing really good. I have really good money. My lady and I, my guy and I, we're doing really well. My relationships are going, but I don't get up every morning. I don't jump out of bed, excited about life. I don't feel like I'm living with purpose or on purpose. And a lot of that has to do with your subconscious programming, if not all of it. So how do you then change your subconscious programming to be able to live that life of purpose and fulfillment? Because all this stuff isn't coming from your conscious part of your brain. It's coming from the subconscious part of your brain. How do you get access to that? Well, the elements of that programming are those 2 books. So the first book has been published. We're working on the second book. When you combine both books, you now have the 12 swords of what we call illumination. Each one of the swords is engraved with a very clear principle about what you need to focus on to create and design this life of purpose.
How long have you been practicing this?
Well, Samurai Success is now going into its 30th year. But I got to tell you, brother, for some reason, I know this is going to sound strange, but I know I've been here before. I don't know why I know that, Joe. I just have known that. And it gives me a sense of acceleration because, well, I'll just be honest with you. I had a real fear that I've worked so hard to gain this knowledge that I was like, if I'm going to come back, right? Let's just imagine that's true, right? Just for a minute. If I'm going to come back, I got to start all over again. And it drove me crazy. I don't know why it drove me crazy. It just did. I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a love letter to me. So what if I come back, I'm going to find that letter and I'm going to read it and I'm going to have access to all this knowledge again, right from an earlier age. I won't have to go through this whole process again about getting all this knowledge. And because then I can start applying, because most people believe that getting the knowledge is the important part. I have found that is not true. I meet people with knowledge all day long. If you don't take that knowledge and apply it, then you don't understand true power. Application is the key. So you got to get the knowledge first, then you have to apply it. Then the power comes from that. But without that application, and that's one of the big themes within that book, is to remind people, you got to apply what you know. If you don't, then it's just knowledge. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge applied is power. Okay, good. So I was like, okay, if I wrote a love letter, but what if it gets stuck somewhere? What if it gets, somebody's chest or somebody's book, or maybe it gets burned? How do I ensure that letter gets back to me? Well, finally it came to me as like, write a damn book and get it into as many places as possible. And then I'm going to have access to it again. So I know that sounds selfish, and it is. But if I had this technology when I was much younger, where would my life have gone? I mean, I've lived an extraordinary life and I have so many more years to go with this knowledge. What if I started younger? What could I do with it then?
And I heard you say, maybe I misheard, but I heard you say that you made somebody a guarantee that if you get all this knowledge, if you understand it, you would share it.
Yes, sir. Well, my connection with the universe, with God, is very important to me. And so I gave my word through prayer that I said, Father, I said, if you share this with me, I give you my word that I will share it with the world. And voila, there it is. Publishing the book is also a benefit to me, but it also is to the rest of the world. And now doing podcasts like this, media events, speaking events that we're doing all over the country right now, and been invited to multiple, there are 22 different countries so far. Getting the word out is what we're doing now, is putting this thing out there so people get access to this information. And that's the real gift that that's my give back to the universe for providing me such amazing information. And let me be really clear with this. This information is not new, but the way it's put together is very new. That's what people are saying to us. It's like, I know this stuff, but the way you put it together, it's so organized. That's undeniable. And that's where it gets fun, because once it's undeniable, then you can start applying it right away.
Let's go back like 10 years, David. About 10 years ago, was there something you believed firmly in that you no longer believe now?
Is there something I believed firmly in that I don't believe now? Yes. Great one. I believed, and maybe it was a little bit longer than 10 years. Maybe that was my sticking point. But in my earlier life, I was so convinced. I mean, you couldn't convince me. Every movie I watched, every book I watched, every speaker I listened to, my parents, everybody was saying that you're here to discover who you are. And I lived that life because I was searching for everything. I went into all these experiences. I went into all these other jobs. I went into these different careers. I was training with everybody I possibly could because I was looking for who David Olcott was. And then I met a master. And he says, I hear you, and it's a great adventure you've been on. Congratulations. But you're not here to discover who you are. You are here to create who you are. And I'm having a goosebump moment, man, because I remember that moment of looking in that man's eyes and hearing that and how it blew me away, because instantaneously, it resonated so powerfully with me. When you look at celebrities, if you look at presidents of the United States right now, you have to understand what he just said to me is exactly what these people are applying.
Wow.
The most powerful people that we admire, dislike, whatever word you want to give that, the ones that are being successful on this planet, understand this technology and apply this technology every single day. They are creating everything about them. They're creating this whole persona of who they are. Their identity is self-created. It is not created by other people. The biggest thing that I can tell you about that is the singular KBI, key behavior indicator, that I see in this, which is different from a key production indicator,
Right.
but a behavior indicator, right? That's the human aspect of things, is that they cannot be talked out of it. That's when you know you have found a self-created individual who is living and being congruent. And I will tell you, that's the thing that I understand the most this lifetime, is that the universe rewards congruency, not conscientiousness.
Yeah, you talk a lot about congruency.
That's
Life doesn't happen to you, David, right? Does life happen to you, or do you tell me about that? I think that's the lesson you learned. It doesn't happen to you. You make your own life, or you should.
Well, there's actually three aspects that I've seen, if you want to break it down that way, that life can happen to you, and that's usually called the victim, right? Things are happening. Oh, I can't believe that happened to me again. And by the way, I've lived some part of my life like that. Yeah. I still do it today, where I go in that place, but I spend a little less time there. And that's the secret of it. Then there's things where things happen from you, where you think you're the self-creator of things, where your ego really gets involved. And it's like, I'm doing all this. And you see a lot of aspects. You see a lot of people living that kind of life. And that's a different experience. Neither one of them is right or wrong from a spiritual term. But then there's this third level that I've been after, where things not happen to you or from you, but they happen through you. And I will tell you, the conversation we're having right now is not David Olcott's words. This is words of the universe that is coming through me, downloaded, if you will, because I've practiced enough way to be able to get the hell out of my own way so that I could listen to what the universe is really talking to me about. And because I can hear it, I trust it, I can speak it as if it's coming from me, and it's not. It's coming through me. And that's a really important distinction, because when you can destroy David Olcott all you want, you can destroy the messenger. You can't destroy the message, because this message has been spoken for thousands of years from all the great masters on this planet, because they've been using the same technology of having information flow through them. When you get to that place, and that's the place I'm evolving toward, or want to get to this lifetime, when you get to that place, life is extraordinary.
David, is there a question you wished more people asked you?
Is there a question more people asked me? Probably is if they would. I think a lot of people still, even though as much as I talk to them about it, is believing in themselves. So the question really is, how do I get myself to trust myself? How do I get to know myself so much that I can listen to the internal master within me? And there is an internal master, Joe, inside of you, just like there is me. And oftentimes we don't trust that. We've been talked out of it. It's been stolen from us, whatever it's happened to us kind of thing. But there is an internal master that when we get in touch with, all the secrets of the universe unfold to us. Maybe not all at the same time, but every answer you've ever wanted to. Like, people come to me with conspiracy things all the time, and they're like, what about this? And what about Kennedy? And what about this? And what's going on with Trump? And I'm like, what does your source tell you? Well, no, that's the information you're getting from media. That's the information you're getting from other people. There's another source within each one of us that we have access to this information, that you can know everything on this planet. You can know all the solutions to it. You just have to practice getting there. And the best way to do that is you have to get your ego out of the way so that your soul can talk to you.
What if discipline wasn't about punishment, but about unlocking your best self? I spent 2.5 years writing Discipline for Greatness, because discipline changed my life. And I know it can change yours too. This isn't theory. Inside, you'll find real, practical steps you can use immediately to focus better, build stronger habits, reduce stress, accomplish your goals, and bring more balance to your life. Whether you're trying to get healthier, improve your career, or simply feel more control. This book gives you the framework. Start today. Grab your copy of Discipline for Greatness at joeypins.com/book. Thank you. Whoops.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it certainly does. As I talk to you, David, I can't help but wonder about the science versus art question. It seems to me that you have a very scientific approach. You have an acronyms for things. You're very, distinct in what you do. But I do think that you refer to the gut often as well. How often do you bring your gut and art into decisions?
All the time. As a matter of fact, it's really a verbiage situation we're dealing with here, Joe. And that is it this or is it this? Well, this symbol that's right behind me reminds me every single day that it's not this or that. It's this and that. And that is a game changer. And I know it sounds so simple, but usually the simplest things are the most powerful and profound. That's why we just glaze over them. They're not to be glazed over. Because once you start applying them, that's the whole thing. You can have all this knowledge base until you apply it. And when you apply it, that's when the secrets reveal themselves. But if you just have all this knowledge base, you're just talking stuff, they never reveal themselves. It's not designed that way. You're not a true student. You're not a true initiative of the subject you're looking into. So if you just stay at the surface, the universe will provide surface answers to you. It's you diving deeper into stuff, spending time with it. And most people are so impatient these days that they're not willing to do that. So then they seek out someone who is willing to do that. My job is to help you turn that around and start having the patience, having the tolerance to be able to do this and start listening to that internal master so that you can understand this stuff has always been here for us. It's always going to be here for us. Even if you're denying it, it's still available to you, and it takes some work to be able to get there.
Who won't you work with?
Well, I've gotten to a place in my life where I read people pretty well. And if I sense someone's intention is going to be, mischievous or malicious or, manipulative, just is not worth doing that. And the universe takes care of it by itself, even if we do get involved with someone like this. We have. But I'm less tolerant of those things these days. I'm really looking for a group of people on this planet that really want to make a change, and they've got to start with the change inside them. And if they're not willing to do that, everybody always says, well, I want to make more money. We're not interested in the money. We're after the mastery. The money comes if you master things. It's like being on the racetrack this weekend. It's like the race finishes will take care of themselves. If you learn the techniques to be able to do this, the wins will take care of themselves. Everyone's focused on the money. We focus on the mastery of things. If you're that kind of person looking for that, you really stop wanting to mess around with all this stuff. You finally reach a place of, I've done it by all the rules. And by the way, the book is about this. There's a gentleman named Tom who's played by all the rules. He's married the woman of his dreams. He has this beautiful child. He's living what most people would say is life, but he's in debt up to his eyeballs. He's miserable. He doesn't want to get up in life anymore, and he's scared to death. And if you're there, you really want to make a shift, those are the folks who can help the most.
When you were at some of the low points in your life, what did you do to get out of it? What have you learned about those low points?
Most of those low points are based upon my personal experience of the event itself. So when, as human beings, right, understanding these three dimensions, human aspect, physical plane, and the spiritual plane, and how they interact with each, and do we have any influence on that? That's been my quest. So understanding that most of us say that I want to go change the world. I said that. I've said this in this interview when I was in politics. Politics isn't a place to change the world. Interesting. What if it wasn't about changing the world? What if it was about changing your experience of the world that already exists? And that's the game changer. So really getting to that place of understanding that it's my experience of those things that really changes the events of things. The events are going to happen. A hurricane is a hurricane. If I'm not prepared, then I'm going to have a different experience of the hurricane. If I am prepared, I'm going to have a different experience of that hurricane. So it's all about how you prepare for life events that you don't even know are coming yet is the whole game.
Wow. Do you feel that you're empathic or intuitive? Do you think you have any of these skills?
Very much so. My father and I, fortunately or unfortunately, he taught me how to be a high-level empath. I would have to walk into my house every single day and feel his emotional state, how he was dealing with things. and see if I was safe or not.
Wow.
So I really thank him for his training. Now, going through the experience was hell. I have to be honest with you. But I'm very thankful for that today, because being a high level empath allows me the ability to really understand what people are really saying when they're saying it and they got their face on, but I can feel that that's not really what they want to go to. I can get past the mask and be able to really get to them with their permission. Because I definitely have done that without permission in my younger time, and that is not successful. People don't want you to know them better than they know themselves, right? So you got to be careful with that art and that technology, and being humble keeps me in a good place with that.
And you can turn it off and turn it on if you're in a crowded place or you're on stage or wherever, you're able to turn it on.
Thank God. As a matter of fact, there's a shielding process that I can use, or there's some other techniques that I can be able to use to be able to dim it down a little bit. I can't really turn it off necessarily, but dim it down a lot so I don't have being so triggered by people. Because if I'm in a conflict, like I'm in a martial arts situation and I'm in a combat situation, I don't want to be sensing that other people's feelings that intensely, because it'll shut me down.
That's right.
If I'm on a racetrack, I'm being competitive. I don't want to feel my competitors' race thing, because if they're scared or anything else, it's going to impact me. I want to stay much more self-contained. So dimming that down is a technique that I've had to learn. And that's one of the things we teach with other empaths as well.
Yeah, I've had the good fortune to speak to empaths before, and it fascinates me because it's a spectrum, right? Some can't turn it off, and some can, and some have very small degree of it. And I think we all, to some extent, have some of it. I've spent some time in some bad situations, and I just can read sometimes people better, and sometimes I can't. And I'm not sure where kind of reading somebody non-verbally an empath starts, but it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've met a lot of people that have the empathic skill, but just don't trust it. So they just shut it down. Or as a matter of fact, that's how powerful our belief systems are. Even though most of us are very empathic, we don't want to trust it. And we don't trust it. We just kind of, oh, that's not something I'm going to talk about. Or I don't want to talk about it at a dinner party, right? You're an empath. What does that mean? Well, being an empath is a great gift if you know how to use it, much like everything else. If it starts using you, it can destroy you.
So, David, I started my business back in the 90s. I was, in my 20s. I felt I was invincible, right? So I'm working these 14, 16-hour days. You talked about 100-hour weeks. You're running your own business. You're just working all the time and putting exercise in the back and, not paying attention to yourself. Next thing I know, I'm in front of the doctor. She tells me I'm at 340 pounds. So I had gained all this terrible amount of weight. I knew I was getting big, but I didn't know I was that big. Yeah.
Right.
And she says to me, look, if you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. So my daughter was just born. Scared the life out of me, right? I'm driving home. Not only did it scare me, it angered me, right? And, I can eat all I want. This is my pie hole. I can abuse myself all I want, but I've got a bigger, it's much bigger than me now. I've got this beautiful, beautiful girl that somehow I'm responsible bringing into this earth. I've got to look beyond myself. Spent the next 6-7 months, lost about 120 pounds. And you can't look at these things as finishing lines, right? These are lifelong changes you have to make. So when I tell people this story, I can always, what'd you do? What's your secret? And there's no secret. I just say discipline, right? I say, focus, motivation, routine. I feel are all under discipline spectrum. How does discipline play a role in your life?
Well, it's interesting. By the way, congratulations, brother. I mean, I'm blown away that I'm looking at a body. What are you, 180 pounds now?
About a deuce now, a little more than I'd like, but yeah, I was 340. Okay. Yeah.
You said 340?
340. Yeah.
My God, man, that
46-inch waist. Yeah, I'm 32 now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I went on a similar path. I actually got involved in powerlifting. So some of my experiences over the years is I do these crazy things, or, I want to go change my program. Like I went ice hockey playing for a couple of years. I played poker for a couple of years. I went skydiving for a couple of years. I mean, I've done some really crazy because I wanted to change my programming, right? I wanted to see if it really worked. So I was up at about 230 pounds because I was powerlifting and I always wanted to bench 400 pounds. Whoa. And so when I finally got there, I kept eating like I was still benching, and I just blew up. And I'm like 5'9" with heels on. So 200 plus pounds is not healthy for me kind of stuff, right? So I got up to about 230 and I was like, okay, and by the way, I had a moment like you did where had to be bigger than me. And that literally, Joe, is about getting the hell out of the way. That's exactly the metaphor for this. You had to make this bigger because I have the right to do this. This is my thing. I can eat McDonald's when I want. If I want it, well, it creates certain results and it creates certain experiences when you have that kind of attitude. That's programming that causes us to do that. So your willpower, your discipline had to go through, you went through number 3, practice. I had to keep practicing it. I used willpower. I used motivation. I used whatever I needed to do to be able to keep that practice of eating healthy so that I could start seeing a different result. It's tough the way you did it, brother, because, and by the way, huge character building. And I'm really proud of you for this because now you know you can do that. No one can ever take that away from you, right? That's the power of understanding. I did that. That's my real value and proposition. And that's what this whole physical plane is about, having the opportunity to experience that which you say you are through practice, results, and those kind of things. So my journey with this was I did it a little easier than you did. I realized that I just had to change my programming. So I literally wrote down who I am when my health aspect. So in the book, there's these 10 categories of balance. And you take an aspect of this, these subjects we're talking about, from financial to business. And I wrote an identity statement about who I am. Now, here's the key thing to it. I really want you to hear me on this show, because this congruency thing you brought up before that I keep shouting about is that the congruency is what makes this work. If I say I'm a world-class athlete and I sit on that couch over there eating Cheetos, those two things are not congruent. If I'm going to say I'm a world-class athlete, I have to do certain things that connect and resonate with that identity statement. That is congruency. And that's what the universe rewards. Out of congruency, you're not going to be there. Powerful, powerful thing. 1996, I crashed a party. There was the gala event, the Met Gala in Washington, D.C. Was it Washington? I crashed a party. I shouldn't have been. There was $10,000 a plate. Now, remember, 10,000 today is like what? $100,000, right? In 1996. I crashed a party. I shouldn't have been there. I was in a rented tuxedo. I was with a group of guys. We crashed it. We got in. I met Larry King was there, by the way. He introduced us to everybody because Larry King and Tony were very close friends. He recognized us because we had just been at his studio like a week before, and he'd gotten some suspenders from a guy that was with us. He introduced us to, he took us literally around and met Calvin Klein, everybody that was there. I actually walked Tony Braxton up on stage. Me personally, I walked her up on stage. How does this kid do this? What's happening here? And by the way, that was not even the highlight, because the highlight of the night was meeting Princess Di 6 months before she passed. So congruency is what got me into that place. Now, congruency, you got to be careful with this today, especially after 9/11, because you start acting a certain way. The only reason I got into that place is because I believed I belonged there. My part of my brain was like, I didn't pay for this. I didn't do this. I shouldn't be here. But I stopped that. And I was congruent about going into that place. You'll find that when you're congruent like that, people will respond very differently to you. This congruency thing is important. So now, taking that other thing out of that manipulation side for there, getting something I wanted, going to that Met Gala, now taking and just saying, hey, now I want to be successful in life. If you are a financial person, you want to be successful, there are certain characteristics that you have to understand, you have to be willing to do, that people have been teaching ever. If you are wanting to be financially successful and you refuse to do budgeting, you are not being congruent. You will not get to that place. And even if you do get to that place, Joe, you will lose it in the long term. This congruency is everything we're talking about. Having a clear identity and then doing the things that support that identity is congruency. So when I reprogrammed my health, I reprogrammed food, because I used to think food was just something I did. As a matter of fact, I skipped meals. I ate whenever I could. I was all over the page with timing and stuff. Now, dude, let me tell you, I have a regimented schedule of when I eat carbs, when I eat protein. I went and studied it. I went and sat down with a nutritionist, a master of the universe when it came to food. And now I know that if I do this cycle of food, I stop eating at 7:00 and I don't eat until my break fast at 9:00 in the morning, is that I have this pattern. I have this cycle that is programmed into my brain that doesn't allow me to do any of that other crap. I don't go eat McDonald's anymore. I don't go eat that stuff. When I go to a place that doesn't have food that's healthy and nutritious for me based upon my identity, I don't eat it. I go find something else. I'll have my whole friends go into a restaurant. I'll walk to the restaurant next door because I'm looking at the menu going, I can eat that. I'll go eat it and I'll go join my friends. But I don't allow those behaviors in my life because they're not part of who I am. And that is what keeps me in that other space of having things flow through me. So when I meet someone like you, all the stuff I've got going on in the world, writing the book, running the business, creating a movie from the book right now. We got all this stuff going on. My wife lives in Oregon kind of stuff. We're moving right now. We got all these things going on. There is nothing more important than this moment with you and I. Nothing. That power of being present. I love that about me. And when I can do that, I can really be in service of other people.
Where does imposter syndrome play in congruency?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, that's when your conscious part of your brain and your subconscious part of your brain do not align with each other.
Conflict, yeah.
There it is. And when you align, when you change and you reprogram your subconscious brain to be in alignment with your conscious vision of who you are, the imposter syndrome gets smaller. Never goes away. It just gets smaller and dimmer, and you just don't spend more time there. Powerful ally.
David, I wonder if you'll indulge me for a moment. When I talk to friends, colleagues, acquaintances, and I ask a lot of questions. Socratic method since I'm a kid. And as I get older, I find I have more questions than answers, but I find that this is completely anecdotal, that they get stuck in one or more of three ways. First one being they're trying to control things they can't control, right? It happens all the time. Two is the whole holding off on happy. I'll be happy when this happens, or I'll be happy if this happens, when of course they're in complete control of their happiness. And then third, I find is looking too far in the past. This happened in the past, therefore I'm this way now. Or this is going to happen in the future, therefore I'm going to do this now. Completely anecdotal. I wonder what you think about those three.
First of all, man, good for you. And by the way, you are a true student of life this lifetime. I admire your mastery with this, because most people want to stay at the surface in these podcasts with me kind of stuff. I love that you're diving in deep, brother. Good for you. I really admire that. So let's really answer the question. I think we could go a lot of different ways with that. There's a lot of questions to be able to answer in it. Let's see if we can get to the core of it. I think what you're really asking me is, what's the secret of really being connected with other people? And I will give you one word to be able to do it: being present. What I mean by that is that if I start stressing out, I know what causes stress. When my brain and my mind starts separating from each other, when my mind starts going too far into the future or too far into the past, my brain is here, but my mind is like a drone, and it can fly into the future or it can fly into the past. And the further it gets away from my center of my brain, the more stressed I get. So the more stress I'm feeling, the intensity of that stress lets me know that my drone is too far out there and I need to bring it back. What brings it back from both those locations is being present. And I will tell you, man, I have solved more problems faster by staying present than worrying about something that hasn't ever happened, will never happen, and never solves a problem anyway. The power of being present, brother, is so awesome. I cannot express it enough. It is my absolute ally. And whenever I start doing it, and I do this, I'm as human as you are. It just takes practice to be present, which means this. What does presence really mean? What are the elements of being present? Now, here's where it gets tough. You have to train your brain to stop giving meaning to things. What? That's the whole purpose of the brain. Okay, well, if that's your truth about things, I admire it. I respect it. And I will tell you, you're going to live a very different experience than what you're asking me about. If you constantly give meaning to things when you don't have all the information, then you're going to be making stuff up that isn't really real, and it's going to stress you out. But Dave, I'm dealing with real issues. Being present will actually help you to solve them and answer them faster than all this variance of worry and stress and frustration and confusion about what do I need to do? What do I need to do? Here's the thing. Most of us stress out and aren't able to stay present because we're wanting to figure out how things work. Now, here's something really interesting, brother. The universe already has everything figured out. All the hows, all the answers, all the solutions already exist in a dimension called the realm of pure potentiality. You as a human being, me as a human being, have access. It is our greatest gift that we've ever been given other than free will. We have access. It's open sesame to the greatest treasure you've ever imagined in this universe is this realm of pure potentiality. And inventors that you've heard about, Nikola Tesla, Edison, Einstein, all these people that what's going on with Elon Musk. Whether you like the guys or not, it's not important. What's important about that is that the quote that Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Imagination exists in that realm of pure potentiality. I want to train this body and this brain and this mind to get the hell out of the way so I can have access to that imagination on a consistent basis. Because all the answers to all my worldly problems already exist there. What's the science behind that? Well, if you believe in the Big Bang Theory, and I know there's a lot of controversy right now that may be not as accurate as we thought, I give you that. But if the world was once this little pea-sized thing, this whole galaxy was this little thing, then everything was contained within that singularity. And then it expanded. The expansion tells you that everything's already contained within that. It's already here, brother. You don't have to figure out how to do things unless you want to, because that's when things happen to you and that's when things happen from you. If that's the life you've chosen, then you're going to have to figure out how. You're going to be stressed. You're going to be frustrated. Stop bitching about it and enjoy it. Be grateful for it because that's the way you've designed it. If you don't want to do that anymore, there's alternatives now. I'm sharing with you today, there's a way to have things move through you. And that's my goal for my lifetime, and to teach my family that, and teach my friends, and teach my clients, and teach as many people that are open to that you don't have to figure out how to do things anymore. How already exists. You're not in control of that. Getting people to hear that, see that, can only happen one way, through practice and experience.
David, as you talk about being present, a word keeps on coming up in my mind, and people have been overusing this word and kind of dragging it around too much. But I wonder what your feedback was. Being authenticity. It's there. Genuinity, another synonym perhaps.
So we've been talking about authenticity from my perspective. My experience this lifetime is when your beingness and your doingness are in perfect alignment. That's authenticity. So we have something called the differential triangle that we use here at Samurai Success. And basically, listening to people over the years, they would always describe themselves as adjectives. I'm good. How you doing? I'm great. I'm excellent. I'm a star. I'm fantastic. I'm legendary. I'm elite. I'm the greatest of all time.
Sure.
There's this list of adjectives that you go up that goes, well, how do you go from good to elite? How does that happen? And how does it form with this physical plane? And how does it feel with this spiritual energy kind of thing we're talking about? How does it all become practical? Well, as you move up that triangle, you recognize one characteristic that allows human beings to experience moving from good to being the greatest of all time: their ability to deal with pressure. Imagine a star athlete who we all, say makes millions of dollars and all these other things. Okay, let's say all that's true. They live this extraordinary life kind of stuff. What is the single characteristic of all those human beings? How many cameras are on a basketball court or a football field? Think about that. Think about your job. Seriously, as we're talking about this, think about your job. And there are 50 cameras all focusing on different aspects of you doing this job today. And then not only those 50 cameras, but there's now 50 other talking heads that are going to be on ESPN talking about your performance all week long, about diving into it, picking it apart, doing all these other things. And then the worldwide audience, who are the armchair quarterbacks, right, that we all talk about, how many millions of people are discussing your We don't live under that pressure
Right.
at all. What are we bitching about, man? But those people do. How does a Michael Jordan become a Michael Jordan? His ability to deal with pressure is his value proposition in this marketplace. Yet, in our society today, Joe, we're looking for ways to take pressure off of us. We're taking it off our kids. We're wanting to eliminate the bullies and stuff like this. I will tell you today, I'm so thankful for the kids that bullied me because they taught me how to deal with a bully. There are always going to be bullies. You're never going to eliminate bullies. Why would we want to keep our kids away from that as opposed to teaching those exist? What are we doing? We've lost our minds.
Yeah.
We're not thinking clearly. We're wanting to be able to. Pressure is an absolute companion with us to have this thing we call an experience. We can mitigate that pressure because if I have a situation, I've dealt with that pressure before. Like if somebody sends me a subpoena, I freak out. I've never had a subpoena before, but my attorney has had thousands of them. Why does he or she deal differently with that subpoena than I do? Because they've dealt with it. They've experienced it. And now we want to take that away. What if I hired an attorney who had never seen a subpoena in their whole life? Why would I want to work with them? I wouldn't. There's no value for me in that. I want someone who has already experienced that. So we've got to really start shifting our brain around this idea behind pressure. Because as you move from good to great to all the way to elite, it's a different mindset, skill set, tool set that you need to develop. And you need to practice. And you need to put part of your subconscious programming that just says, I can deal with that pressure. So when it shows up again, it's easy and effortlessly.
David, is there something in the last month or so you changed your mind on?
Well, going over this, I've been riding motorcycles for a big part of my life, 20 plus years kind of stuff, probably even longer than that. And I will tell you, just this weekend of training that I went to really shifted about. I didn't know that I could go into a corner, turn my bike sideways, and start applying the brake at a very slower rate and actually slow the bike in a corner. I could go really fast in the corner, which sped up my lap times. So I could actually go faster. So I would go in there, I would then brake really hard, I would turn the bike, and then I would accelerate and go in. Over the weekend, they taught me that I didn't have to apply the brake, or I could apply the brake at the same time. I could just require less pressure of the brake, go further into the corner, which allowed me to go faster, and then turn and go. And I took 2 seconds off my lap time over the weekend. By the way, 2 seconds in a lap is so huge, Joe. I can't even tell you. It's like that's not possible. That one technique taught me how to do it. But do you know how much programming I had to do to trust that teaching? If I didn't have the programming to trust the teaching, I would never trust that teaching enough to apply it to be able to see from the experience that it actually worked. So changing your mind isn't just coming from the technique or strategy you're being taught. You've got to convince yourself, you've got to convince your programming through application and practice that it actually works to be able to apply it again.
What motivates you, David?
Great question, brother. Great question. And I've spent a lot of time really thinking about this. My passion this lifetime is I love to learn. I truly love it. I know it sounds strange, of everything that's available on this planet, all the pleasure centers, all the other things, learning for me seems to be the most powerful ally I have. I know that because being a philosopher, the person who loves to learn is a philosopher, right?
Yeah.
Not someone who goes out and speaks and talks about stuff. It's being able to learn. So I love to learn. So the universe provides me plenty of learning because I ask for it. Not a lot of people like to learn. Matter of fact, most people going into the learning curve, if you will, don't like it. I've actually taught my brain, I've reprogrammed my brain that when I get confused, I love being confused today because I'm about to have a breakthrough. What's on the other side of confusion? Breakthrough. If I never get to confusion, then I never get to the breakthrough. I love confusion, where most people fear it, don't want to deal with it or anything else. I don't have to have the same meaning everybody else does, because if I have the same meaning everybody else does, I'm going to get the same result. If I want a different result, I've got to change my meaning. This is Einstein again. If you continue to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result, that's insanity. I'm insane in different ways.
Hmm. Yeah, the day I stop learning is the day I die. So
Yes, sir.
given that as motivation of learning, how do you measure success?
So how I measure success is how I can take that what I've learned and put it into structure. I will
Hmm.
tell you it's the foremost of everything that we do here at Samurai Success, because the differential triangle we just talked about is a structure. Everything we talked about with the fraud triangle, the learning curve, all if I don't keep structure in place, then everything I'm learning becomes perishable.
Hmm.
Now that's something I don't like. I don't like things to be. I learned that before, and I got to go to learn the lesson again, because the mistake is not making the mistake. The mistake is continuing to do the mistake, right? So I don't want to do that. I would like to do it differently. So I take what I learn and I meticulously work on it, think about it, talk about it, and write down structure. And then, by the way, it doesn't always come through one time. Like the differential triangle came through in just one sitting. This was years of developing, then working through it and shaping it and understanding it and experiencing and applying it.
Hmm.
Now, here's the one cool thing that every human being does on the planet. You know what that is? The one thing, 8 billion of us all share this same characteristic. We forget.
Hmm.
Every single one of us does it. This whole physical plane is designed that way. We're actually swimming in an ocean of forgetfulness that has a frequency, has a name. It's called Maya energy. We're swimming in this stuff, and it's designed this way because the real reason your soul is here is to have an experience of who you say you are. If you remembered everything about you, if you remembered your true identity, you truly remembered your spirit, your divinity, if you remembered that fast, the game would be up.
Hmm.
There would be nothing else to do while you're here, because all the confusion would go away, everything would go away, the possibility for experiences would go away. So forgetfulness is such an important part of who we are as human beings in this physical plane. But I want to remember as much as I can.
Hmm.
And because of that, and because I remember more often of who I am and what I'm here to do and what my purpose and intention are, when I go into situations that usually cause me to freak out before, I'm very clear about how to make decisions, man. That's a powerful ally.
Hmm. So what would you have to stop doing not to be successful?
Well, success is one of those really interesting words, right? I mean, samurai success. So
Hmm.
success is in our word, right? So we better have studied this. So success, when I talk to people about that, I know you have done this as well. What is success? What's success? And by the way, there's 1,000 different answers to that. There's
There's
no
not a wrong
real,
one.
exactly. There is no wrong one. But there is one component that must exist for success to exist. It must be duplicatable.
Hmm.
If I do something successfully one time, what's that called? Luck,
Hmm.
right? Or perchance. I've got to be able to repeat that success in order to be able to have it be successful from most people's perspective. That duplication. What allows me to duplicate stuff? Structure. Once I have the structure of things, I can go back to that structure and repeat that process, repeat that structure, repeat that recipe, repeat that blueprint. You've heard all these terms before. Now it's about applying them in a practice.
Want to show your love for discipline, inspiration, and the Joey Pinz podcast? Now's your chance. Introducing the brand new Joey Pinz merch store, where style meets discipline. Choose from premium apparel, cozy hoodies, stylish hats, durable bags, and your new favorite coffee mug, all featuring the iconic Joey Pinz logo. Perfect for podcast fans, discipline enthusiasts, or as unique gifts for friends and family. Every purchase supports the Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations podcast, helping us continue to inspire greatness and promote positive change. Visit joeypins.com/store today and wear your discipline proudly. Joey Pinz merch. Wear it, share it, and live it.
Practical way.
Absolute pleasure, David. I enjoy your perspective. I was so excited when we set this up. I thank you so much for your time. Really, really love your insight and being present. Anyone watching or listening, how can they get in touch with you?
Best way to reach us is called Samurai Success, SAMURAI Success. And really, we have 200 plus videos on there for you guys to explore and have some fun with it. Plenty of information, content, all kinds of stuff that we've been working on the last couple of years to be able to get out there. But that's our center point for being able to really do some more research on us. I love that you love the podcast. I love that you love the philosophies, but it's going to take more for that to be committed to really the work that's necessary to get you where you want to be able to go. So start there, explore that, then reach out to us and see how we can be of service.
SamuraiSuccess.com. Of course, you're on Facebook, Linktree, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, all over the place. David, I thank you so much for the time. Next time I'm in your geography there in Denver, perhaps we'll get together and have a cup of tea.
Outstanding, sir. I would love that. I would absolutely love that.
Thanks again. You be well.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate you.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.